Good morning, everybody. It is Jillian with Jilly Juice LLC, and I've been doing a lot of research on black holes again because the last time I did research on black holes, I had a different mindset with different information. And so when I go back and revisit things that I have studied before with a light background in it, then with the new information I have today, the old information now makes a little more sense and I'm able to connect the dots. Okay, so sometimes for you to connect the dots, you have to find the relation. First, you have to understand the micro level understanding of details and then understand how it affects the macro level. And that's when you connect the dots. It's hard to connect the dots if you only understand macro level perceptions, because that can be hypocritical, just like our world is very hypocritical because it's going through an ever evolving state. And so, in a lot of ways, academia allows you to see some of the micro level details if you are willing to pay for it. But they will give you their spin on the macro level perceptions. And so that's where academia can have a downside, because you're not getting an unbiased, objective point of view. You're getting it based upon, industry and what their aim is. And so, hey, John, good morning. And so, not saying, I bagged on academia, but they do give us a base level understanding if you can read past the perceptions they give off and their conclusions. But a lot of people don't have that distinction or the discernment to know between somebody's perception of events and just the events. And then you can actually put in another perception, so as long as it follows the laws. Okay, and that's understanding what the laws are first before you can actually make a perceived judgment on what a person should do, right or left, up or down, whatever. And so now I'm looking at black holes, and I've talked about the alimentary canal. Okay, that was in my last book, but I pulled the book from the market because it didn't have all the information, and I didn't want people to be using J juice as a cure on an indefinite basis because it would destroy you. And so it's, again, all about balance. But I remember making the correlation about the alimentary canal, and when you clear the pipes in your alimentary canal, it allows then the free-flowing communication to finally get to all the dark crevices in your body that were put to sleep. And that means also, too, waking up latent viruses that were in a cured state because a person was exposed to innovation and they didn't want to deal with the supernova evolutionary explosions, which is the pain. And so that's why you see so much diversity in our society, because we have so many people at different levels of stagnation in their alimentary canal. And my dog, she is up, which I'll give her some time. I might have to break in between this and then take care of her and then do this. So anyways, so the black holes are no different than your alimentary canal. You have gravity, and the black holes then pull in things that are not as strong as it. So it pulls in negative neutron stars. It pulls in it won't pull in a white dwarf star, because that white dwarf star still has photonic energy that counters that negative force. It has positive electrons, positive stuff. So that's why they orbit each other. That's why the white dwarf star is in orbit versus being swallowed up. And that's no different than a large mass in society. When someone is overwhelming somebody else, they can swallow up somebody else if that person is weaker and doesn't counter that force. So that's no different than out there in the solar system. There are gravitational forces that will find the weakest link and swallow it up and do a spaghettification, because that's what happens when you go into a black hole. It spaghettifies you, no different than when you're eating food and it's going through all its processes. It spaghettifies, or it breaks everything down to its most minute state, uses up all the different components, distributes, like the planets get distributed, the space dust, all of the nutrients then gets distributed to your organs and your cells and your flesh, and then all that stardust is smelly. It gets pooped out either in waterfalls or just your daily pooping. And so that's what happens also with black holes, is they also produce galaxies as well. So there's death and there's life that happens simultaneously with black holes and the galaxy at the macro level. At the micro level, when it comes to a human body, that's the same thing. When you are going through a viral evolution, because the dark energy and the dark matter are all like viruses, zombified viruses are latent, waiting for the photonic energy to wake them up. That's no different with your cells. When you're going through a viral evolution, which has transducers, then your body is releasing the old and it is regenerating the new. So you have new galaxies, new stars in your body. Your organs and your planets are upgrading. And that's the same thing with what a black hole does. It takes all the matter that needs to be recycled back into the universe and then has this burst of energy and gases that then also galaxies get created. So black holes are like the balancing force in the universe. And though they may seem kind of scary because you're like, oh my God, a black hole, everything gets sucked in. But remember, there is the positive and negative forces that balance each other out. And that is the dark matter. The dark matter are the black holes, the gravity, and even but that gravity. Remember, gravity just pulls things in, but you still have the electromagnetism that then balances that gravity, so it doesn't suck everything. Or else the black holes would suck everything. We wouldn't be here. I mean, if black holes were so strong, okay, all the black holes in our universe would have sucked all the life out, and we wouldn't exist. So there's a reason why we exist, and that's because the photons, the energy, the light energy is what keeps the black holes at bay. The light in your body is what keeps your body from atrophying. When people are, low sodium diets and they're afraid to do anything to evolve, then they turn into like a black hole. They turn into like a black dwarf star, where you see them just diminishing in light. And so that's why there is that characterization of like Satan and Lucifer. Satan is a prince of darkness and Lucifer is the bringer of light, but people have put them as one of the same, and they're not. Okay, the light is what gives us the knowledge, but it's more than just light. It's also the covalent bonding, the gravity, because gravity, again, gives us the force to break things down to a smaller piece, but then you have the magnetic forces, okay, the electrons and protons and neutrons that repel and attract. So the whole thing with gravity and magnetism, I used to kind of use them like together as if they were the same. They're not. I mean, there's a very distinct difference. So they work together. They have to work together in biodiversity, because those two are the main components of life. And so even though you have the magnetism that people are saying like the vaccines are magnetized, no, I mean, they have a certain amount of it, but it's not like it's going to hurt you. Everything is magnetic on some level, and everything has radiation on some level. Okay, just the amount of it and how it is interacting with your internal ecosystem. And so magnetism is just when you have the positive and negative poles pointing at whatever direction, attracting or repelling. Gravity just pulls things in. But gravity is also counterbalanced by the electromagnetism. If you have no electromagnetism, no sun, none of that photons, then it would be just all black holes, just a graveyard of dead stars and viruses looking for, the email, the messenger, the light to ride on and hitch to then go and find things to give purpose to. And so now it all makes sense. I knew the macro had everything to do with the micro. It was finding the analogies and looking for the physics, the actual laws of physics. That's why we can't completely just forego the laws of physics. So a lot of the conspiracy world try to do that because they don't want to believe anything from NASA. They hate, the mainstream. So they throw out the baby with the bathwater. But there is still a foundation we must work from. There are specific laws that we must work from that are universal, and no matter how you want to characterize it, they're all universal. It happens in space and it happens here on Earth. And our solar system is based upon the obviously electromagnetism and the gravity and the masses. I mean, the mass is what brings things together and has them orbit each other. So obviously we have the moon orbiting the earth because earth is bigger than the moon, but we're orbiting the sun because the sun is massively bigger than the earth. And so that's why you have all the systems orbit each other, or all the planets orbit the sun, because it is a sun-centered universe. And that's why people do worship the sun, because it's a massive virus. It has the photon torpedoes, so to speak, that have viruses that then also turn into virions that find the matter and the particles in the universe to go and inhabit. And then gravity and electromagnetism then brings purpose and draws things together. And that's where biodiversity comes from. That's where life comes from. Now, who started all the gravity stuff and all the electromagnetism? That's the God. Okay, that's the God I don't put any kind of face to. That's the God that I don't put any kind of like being to. There is no man, there is no like alien that, I would actually worship to say, this is the God, this is my creator. I mean, I could go and play God in a lab and create something, and that was the only thing that they saw, and that was like, that was the only thing they saw, and they had some kind of intelligence to think that I'm like this great thing. I could be God to anything that doesn't know any better. All of you could be a God to things that don't know any better. When you put somebody as a God, it means that you are less than, you don't have the same intelligence. And so instead of putting power into a person, place, or thing, just understand that there are forces out there that are energetic, that have intelligence, that may not have a body to them, but they're a force. Okay? I mean, the viruses don't get activated unless light activates them. That's why at night when you're asleep, you're not activated. You're supposed to be asleep, but when people don't get enough sleep, they kind of go insane, right? So you have to sleep, which means that the viruses have to sleep, and maybe you have the night crew in your body working to make sure that the day crew has everything they need. Okay? So anyways, I'm going to go because my dog, and I have to go and take her to the bathroom and all that stuff. So maybe I'll finish this up if anything more, but I think that you get the gist of it. Okay, bye. Hey, sugar.